Welcome to the Week 6 edition of the Davidson Football Coaches Corner alongside head coach Scott Abell. I'm Jake Eisenberg. As always, we're powered by J.J. Wade & Associates. Coach, this past Saturday, a tough loss to swallow against Morehead State, 35-28 the final score. But you said after the game that you saw some encouraging signs, not just from your locker room, but also from the other sideline.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, I think there's so much to be learned in every game, and certainly you want to walk away with a win every Saturday. But realistically, that's not possible really anywhere. And so when those moments happen, you look for things out of your team. And the first thing I wanted to see was, what was our resilience like? What was our mentality? Wasn't really crazy about our mentality at the Dayton game when we lost to Dayton. It was almost felt like it's something we expected to happen. And so this week, as time expired and we fell just short, the mentality of our guys was they didn't expect that to happen. They expected to win the game, and for me, that's so encouraging because that's what our expectations are. Is that each week we step on the field expecting to win and prepare to win. And so I was encouraged by that. I was encouraged by our locker room afterwards. It felt like we'd been kicked in the gut, and now we're ready to move forward.
How do you use that gut reaction from the locker room that you talked about and take that into practice this week?
Well, you remind them without harping on it. I mean, last week is over and we move forward, but I think it's important for us to remember what that feels like, right? The feeling of a game you expected to win and fell just short. So the little things that you can control don't happen again.
When it comes to Morehead State, you said that from their sideline, you noticed some excitement, and that gave you a little bit of pride.
Yeah, well, and I told our guys that. I think it's probably been rare in the recent era of Davidson football where a team is celebrated after a win on the Davidson football field, because that would tell you they necessarily didn't expect to win that game, and that's where we've come. And I think it's important for everybody to remember we've come there in a very short period of time. So there's still a lot for our program to work on, a lot of areas to grow in. But for those things to occur so early, it really is encouraging for us.
And this past loss came after back-to-back wins against Valparaiso and Jacksonville. And in this game, Davidson had a chance to tie the game at the end of regulation. You drive down the field, starting at your own 1-yard line. You go all the way to their 28-yard line. What did you see from your team on that possession?
Well, just some of that same things we talked about, that resiliency, the determination of, hey, as long as there's time on that clock, we have a chance to tie this game and win this thing. And that's all you can ask your guys in that situation, right? That's tough. You're pinned back on the one. You got less than a minute, and you got to get down the field. And here we are. We're inside the 40 and 2 shots at the end zone. I mean, that's really all you can hope for. So I was proud of how we responded right there in that situation. Disappointed that we fell short, but we'll use all these experiences and learn from it and move forward.
And there were some other positive takeaways from that game on Saturday. You guys set 2 program single-season rushing records, most touchdowns in a single season on the ground, most rushing yards in a single season on the ground. What's made the run game so successful this season in particular?
Well, I think it's just the change in philosophy. I mean, that's who we're becoming, and I think we're really just scratching the surface. I mean, we've implemented this spread option attack. Our guys have bought into it, and I'm proud of where we are. But I do think the best is yet to come. And records are nice and setting new marks are nice. But really, the big thing is does it help us win football games? And we do think this offensive scheme really benefits us here at Davidson. Who we recruit in the student athlete. The type of kids we can bring in here year in, year out, without question, I think it's an ideal fit for the program we're going to become. And so I'm excited to see what's ahead, and because like I said, I do think as good and dominant we've been running the football at times, I think the best stuff's ahead for us.
Yeah, even with the dominance on the ground, you said the offense was lacking a little bit of rhythm on Saturday.
Yeah.
How do you regain that this Saturday against Marist?
Well, I think you have to look back to what caused that, some of the lack of rhythm. Some of that things we can't control, right? You get a run call back, a long run that was certainly, we were kind of clicking on all cylinders at that point, and then, we're forced to punt after that. And you got to understand that things happen, good and bad, in each game, and the ebb and flow does change, and we have to be able to kind of reboot ourselves. And we necessarily didn't always do that well Saturday, and that includes myself. I call our offense, and anytime you take a halftime and then there's a long drive in the third quarters, you got to find a way to get yourself back in rhythm quicker. And I got to figure that out for our offense and how to do that and how to get our guys going a little quicker out the gate in the second half.
Speaking of this Marist team that you guys are going to face on Saturday, what are your first impressions of the Red Foxes?
Well, I think that they remind me of teams that we faced already in our league. I think they have some really nice athletes running around, right? They're a little older than we are, which most teams so far have been, right? We're playing a lot of young guys, so we got to be cleaner, kind of minimize our mistakes. We're playing them on the road. They have found some rhythm here in the last 3 weeks, by beating Dayton and winning on the road at Jacksonville. And so, we got to prepare for just a battle up in New York, and that is what we'll prepare for and be ready for Saturday.
Now, Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've had 7 games now to take a look at this team, and you've seen the contributors on both sides of the ball. They've more or less identified themselves. But who's a player that we should keep an eye on the rest of the way that's maybe flown under the radar a little bit or has made serious strides into making an impact down the stretch?
That's a good question. I think some guys that have really come a long ways, right? And I'll name a couple on both sides if that's all right. You give me time, right? So
yeah, take your time.
There's some depth guys on defense that I think have come on and really given us the ability to get some guys some rest. When you look at a first-year player like Cade Vila, who's been in the rotation the last couple of games, right? Sean Holton, who gives us the ability to get some guys some rest on defense, have played really well, and think you want to continue watching that. Some guys, Corey Coppola probably didn't, his name didn't get thrown out there as much. You talk about Bryce Perry Martin and Clay and George, and they've all done really well, but Corey's playing really well for us, and just a consistent guy up front on defense. Offensively, as we move down, I think there's our offense spreads the wealth, and so I think you'll continue to see that trend, right? And that could change from week to week, whether it's Story, whether it's Wesley. I think we're going to try to find a way to get. We think we have a lot of dynamic kids, but that our O-back position, which is the running back in the backfield with our quarterback, basically Wesley and Story and KB, who is just now starting to see the field a little bit. We think they're all 3 talented kids, and we need to try to find a way to get them all involved. And that's a challenge for us, and that's something we're going to look hard at how to do.
Coach, thanks as always for joining us.
Thanks,
it's been
Jake.
a pleasure. Best of luck this week against Marist as well.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of the Davidson Football Coaches Corner. Davidson takes on Marist this weekend up in Poughkeepsie, New York, so the Cats are on the road. That means you can listen to the game on the Davidson Radio Network and with the TuneIn app. Plus, you can always follow along on Twitter @DavidsonFB. For the Davidson Football Coaches Corner, I'm Jake Eisenberg. So long, and thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again next week.